Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane's studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane's studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up you are here with us. Plenty to do over the course of the next 2 hours. We've got our college football playoff bracket set. We will dive into that. LSU basketball played horrendously yesterday. We will dive into that. The Saints did not play horrendously yesterday. We'll dive into that. Denton Day with us in an hour and a half talking national college football stories and plenty more. So let's crank things up. I want to start basically kind of where we left off on Friday with this show. At that point, Lamar Brown had just sent his paperwork in. So really the only drama surrounding LSU and what was a drama-filled week with a new coach, a new press conference, National Signing Day, the whole deal, the only drama was kind of surrounding Blake Baker at that point. And we knew that Tulane had a game on Friday night, and I kind of felt like just my read of the situation, not anything that was sourced, not anything that was concrete, but just kind of a feeling, was that Tulane would play. They would likely win on their home field against North Texas. They would clinch a playoff spot, and the next day, Blake Baker would become their next head coach. I thought Saturday was a target for that. Well, that didn't happen. I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I thought Blake Baker would be the next Tulane head coach. It came out Friday evening. Blake Baker intends to stay at LSU. And it surprised me. It did. Like, obviously, I told you time and time again last week that I thought that it was going to be time for Blake Baker to move on. I gave you all the reasons why I thought it made so much sense for him. It's his alma mater. He continues to recruit a state that he's recruited in a lot. He's had 2 stints at LSU, had a stint at Louisiana Tech. His wife is from Baton Rouge, went to LSU. And so you can see why it would make a lot of sense to go coach at a place that have won a lot of games, has a great recruiting base, has an infrastructure already in place that the last 2 coaches have done a great job with. It just felt right. It felt like the job he would take. And he didn't. And all that stuff I laid out from a football perspective makes all the sense in the world. It does. But what I did not account for was the answer that Blake Baker gave the off-the-bench guys this morning when he joined them on their show. And they asked him kind of what went into the decision. And Baker was very candid, very honest. Said, look, got 3 kids, 10, 8, and 6. And we sat down and we talked and just didn't feel like a time to move. And you consider what the Baker family has done the last 6 years. He was on staff at Miami. He left Miami to come take the LSU job in 2021. So that's one move. You move from LSU then in 2022 to Missouri. That's a second move. And then after 2 years at Missouri, you move back to LSU. That's a third move in 5 years. And then he would have been on staff for 2 years at LSU and move again. It would have been a 4th move in 6 years. And his family decided that wasn't best. And that's something that I could not have accounted for. Like, I don't know the Baker family. Interviewed Blake a few times from pregame show. Great guy. Very much enjoyed it. Don't know the Baker family. Did not know that the home front was going to make this decision easier for him. And it did. And he told the guys on off the bench again today that he kind of envisions himself, he used this word, on the Kirby Smart plan, where you are a defensive coordinator at a power school and you go become a head coach at another power school. And we've seen that all over the country. Dan Lanning went from the Georgia defensive coordinator to the Oregon head coach. Marcus Freeman was the Notre Dame defensive coordinator, became the Notre Dame head coach. This year, Will Stein was the Oregon defensive coordinator, Kentucky head coach. Mentioned Kirby Smart. Ryan Day was the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, becomes the head coach at Ohio State. That's the plan Blake Baker sees himself on. And so while this news is very, very good for LSU's 2026 football team, Blake Baker being the defensive coordinator. I actually think from listening to this interview that he did this morning on OTB and then analyzing the situation, this feels like a big thing for LSU's football program moving forward in the Lane Kiffin era. Because I don't know how close Blake Baker is to getting a Power 5 head coaching job. Maybe really close, maybe not. And to get there, he's going to have to continue to put great defenses on the field. And I don't know if this LSU defense was great. It was certainly good. I would suggest certainly very good. I don't know if it was great. They got torched by Texas A&M. They got torched by Vanderbilt. They were on the field too much, but Lane Kiffin had his way with them in Oxford as well. There were some games against good offensive teams where they weren't great. But when you put into context where they came from under Baker and where they are today, undoubtedly he's done a very, very good job at LSU. And for him to take that jump that he's suggesting he wants to take, they're going to have to get better. Because I would submit that, like, there will be a G5 job that comes open next year that could want Blake Baker. But he's telling you, based on not moving his family and wanting to take the next power job, that he's not going to jump for those. And I honestly can't think of two significantly better G5 jobs than Memphis and Tulane. Like, they're in big metropolitan cities. They've won a lot of games. Their coaches are at Florida and Florida State and Arkansas, Houston as well. Like, those are really good G5 jobs that he just turned down. One's his alma mater. So I think it's reasonable to suggest that Blake Baker has some more time here in Baton Rouge. And by more time, I don't mean 11 more months. I think he's going to be Lane Kiffin's defensive coordinator for a little bit, unless he just puts a dominant defense out there next year and then moves on. But this, to me, is a part of the program now. Blake Baker's a part of the program now. And what do we talk about when you hired Lane Kiffin? When you hire Lane Kiffin, he takes care of the offense. He is not coordinator dependent on offense, but he very much is on defense. When he got to Ole Miss, his first year in 2020, quite literally, Ole Miss had the second worst statistical defense in the FBS. There was one team worse out of 127. They were 126th in defense. Like, almost the worst. And it took him a while. They weren't very good the next year. And they weren't very good the next year. And then he got Pete Golding to come in, and they went into the transfer portal and got a bunch of players. And that defense became one of the best units in the SEC. But Kiffin's dependent on getting that coordinator to control that side of the ball. He's got the offense. He needs help on defense. And Baker's the help. And not only does Blake Baker come back to LSU, but they're working through the details to keep Corey Raymond at LSU, and to keep Jake Olson at LSU, and to keep Kevin Peoples at LSU. And you've hired Elijah Robinson to be the defensive line coach. And all of a sudden, you've got the sure thing in Lane's offense. That's already there. And now you're keeping stability on the defensive side of the ball with the staff you really trust, that's got some continuity together, that just signed a monster defensive class. Like, this is a very, very encouraging thing for LSU's football program to have Blake Baker remain, because you kind of know what you have in Baker. He's essentially, at this point, 4 years as an SEC coordinator, 2 Missouri, 2 LSU. He's proven himself to put good defenses on the field in the Southeastern Conference. 2 different stops, 2 different stints. Yeah, he's a pretty sure thing. And you know what you've got on offense. If you lose Blake Baker this year, I don't know who you're going to hire to be the defensive coordinator, but you introduce significant variable. And while you had a coach in Brian Kelly that was dual depender coordinated, and you had a head coach in Ed Ogeron that was dual coordinator dependent, and you had a head coach in Les Miles that was dual coordinator dependent, meaning both sides of the ball were in flux at all times, Lane does have to worry about the defense. And now you've got it. And that is huge, huge for LSU. So this week of drama, Lane Kiffin's first week, he comes in, he holds the top end of his signing class together. LSU, according to the folks over at On3 Rivals, had the #1 class in the country in terms of average player rating. It's a small class, talking about 15 guys or so, but in terms of average talent, tops. Held that together. Brought over a good bit of your offensive staff from Ole Miss. Kept LSU's good defensive staff largely intact. That's a pretty good first week for Lane Kiffin. That's a pretty good first week. So now you got to finish out the staff over the course of the next 2 weeks. We'll see what happens with Ole Miss in the playoff. Then you hit the portal really hard. Really, really hard. And all of a sudden, I've been asked a couple times, like, what can realistic expectations be in year one under Lane Kiffin? I've been asked that a bunch this, and I'm like, I don't know. I honestly don't know because I don't know what the roster looks like at all. I don't know what the quarterback looks like. I don't know what the offensive line looks like. I don't know who's coaching the defense. Like, there's way too many variables for me to give a reasonable expectation about what to think about next year. Well, you're starting to paint that picture a little bit. Now, the portal is the biggest thing because that's next year's roster. So I can't tell you right now, but I feel good about the offense, and I don't even know who's going to be on it because Lane Kiffin's that good on offense. And now I feel good about the defense because I know who's coaching it. And that's a very, very comforting thing. So for LSU to get that assurance from Blake Baker that, like, hey, I'm on this Kirby Smart track. I want to coach at LSU until I get the big job. The big job doesn't come open all the time. And then the big job is going to have to want someone with no head coaching experience. That can take some time. And I got to tell you, I think LSU's okay with that taking some time. Blake Baker's very well compensated. It's very clear. His family loves it in Baton Rouge. You may have a situation where you get a few really good more years out of Blake Baker, and that is a huge, huge positive for Lane Kiffin and this LSU football program. So Blake Baker staying, highly recommend you check out the interview that the Off the Bench guys did with him this morning. You can find that on their YouTube page or wherever you find your podcast. Great stuff from Blake Baker. I've also got a story up, that's the written version of that at louisianasports.net right now that you can check out for free. All right, that's LSU. That's Blake Baker. Put that to bed. When we come back, Saints got to win. What did it mean? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com is the website. It's a great place to hang out. Great place to hang out. Grab some friends. Go over to Swing Easy Golf Club. You get a private bay. You can go in. Got the couches. Got the television. Got the music. Put on the driving range simulator. Or you can play a round of golf at one of the most famous courses in the world. You can play St. Andrews. You can play Pebble Beach. You can play TBC Sawgrass. Test yourself on the Island Green. Drink a cold beer, enjoy a glass of wine, seltzer. They got them right there at the front. And just hang out. It's a great place to go. Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. They're on Segan at Perkins. You can find the website, swingeasygcbr.com. But give them a call. Stop on by. Grab a tea time. Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, we're getting to the Saints here. I have a comment, and I don't mean to disparage the listener. In fact, the opposite. I think it's a wonderful gesture. I just have some questions with it. Jordan, are you a fast food breakfast guy?
I can be when I have a little money in my pocket.
Okay. It is a guilty pleasure of mine. Yeah. I love fast food breakfast. I think it's awesome.
Some spots are hit or miss. And
so a listener, apparently this morning I got the story from Alondra, who produces Off the Bench. A listener had breakfast delivered to the Off the Bench's crew. I think that's a great gesture. Appreciate that very much. That's awesome. I just question the order.
Okay.
McDonald's has
everything.
Great breakfast.
Yeah.
Great breakfast.
Yeah. And
the order that was sent was all ham, egg, and cheese McMuffins.
Ugh. What?
Of the breakfast sandwiches from McDonald's, the biscuit is awesome.
It's okay.
The McGriddle is awesome.
That's what I'm grabbing.
And the McMuffin is third. It's the worst.
It's the ugly sister.
And then if you go to the breakfast meats, sausage is the best.
Easy.
Bacon is the second best, and ham is the worst.
The ugly sister.
So this is the worst order you could have come up with, in my opinion.
No, I mean I totally agree, but also beggars can't be. So if it's free, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna put it down.
If you're gonna hand me a ham, egg, and cheese McMuffin, I'm gonna eat it.
I'm gonna be like,
I'm going to eat it. And it's going to be a 5 out of 10. But you got a possibility to get a sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle, which is a 10 out of 10.
With the double hash brown and the orange juice. Come on now.
So, again.
Grape jelly.
I think this may come off as me being dismissive of the listener. That it was a good idea. And look, I would eat that sandwich. I questioned the order. I was surprised to open the bag and see that.
Well, look, you have a right to question the order. But again, we're appreciative of everybody that wants to bring any type of breakfast. But, hey, man, sausage, egg McGriddle. Or if you got a little bit of money, steak and egg and cheese McGriddle. They don't know about that one.
Actually, so that is better than the bagel. You don't want the bagel from McDonald's. That's bad. And then the steak breakfast, probably not where I'm going to head either. Yeah. But all right, enough on the McDonald's order.
Yeah, we got to win today.
Hey, the Saints did win.
Come on.
The Saints did win. And they played really well. Like, it was not like a flukus, like, the other team missed 3 field goals, or, you had a scoop. No, it's just like the Saints just showed up in Tampa in the rain and just put it on the Bucs. Just straight put it on them. And I thought it was awesome. I thought there were a number of things to highlight in the game. What's got to come first is Shough. I thought 2 things on him. One, I did not know that he could move like that.
Me either.
That was really something. To rip off multiple big runs on a good Tampa defense was impressive. Both touchdown runs showed some speed. There was a little toughness on the last one to escape from all the sacks. And that it was gutty, it was gritty, and then it was a lot of talent there to get that to the end zone. I thought that was awesome. I also really, really liked the 2 third-down conversions on the Saints' final drive.
Clutch.
They were decisive. They were accurate. They were on the money. Just what you need for operating. We're always going to look at highlight reel plays, and you're going to look at the long touchdown runs. We want to see the deep balls. But, just executing in an offensive system is what you need your quarterback to do to win at the highest level. And for him to make those 2 throws on the third downs was awesome. Thankfully, the Bucs dropped the interception there at the end. That wasn't his fault. Olave tips it up in the air. But, thankfully they dropped it, which is good. And the stat line's not going to wow you. But it's in the rain. 13 for 20 for 144 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. But I thought that he really made some big plays in that game with his legs, and then when you needed him on those third downs to help turn that clock down. And one thing that helps Tyler Shough, obviously, is to get that ground game going. And Devin Neal absolutely got the ground game going, showed a little burst, showed a little ability to get up the field, and I thought really looked the part of an NFL running back. 19 carries for 70 yards was the final stat line. He had a long of 21. The Saints had not had a running play of over 20 yards all season. And they got one from Neal and then, of course, the 34-yarder from Shough. But to get the ground game going against a top 6 defense rushing in the NFL in Tampa was really impressive for New Orleans. You knew you were going to have to run the ball in those conditions, and they did it against a really good front. So I thought that was awesome to see. I do like the fact that they got Devon Vele involved again in this game, 3 catches for 40 yards. They targeted him 5 times. You're starting to see that part of the offense come together. That's not something the Saints had, a big possession receiver. They just didn't have that in September. And now that you are in December, it took a while. It took longer than I would like for Vele to get out there on the field, but it took trading Shaheed away and getting down the line when you talk about targets. But they're getting Vele involved, which is good. They got Juwan Johnson involved, which was good. Olave had some catches, and I thought that the offense really functioned the way that I think a Kellen Moore offense should function. You look at the ground game. I mean, I'm thinking about Philly, right? That's the most recent thing we have with him. There's a longer sample size in Dallas, but I'm thinking about Philly. I'm thinking about a quarterback that makes some plays with his feet. You saw that from Jalen Hurts. You saw that from Tyler Shough. I'm thinking about running the football, which you saw from Philly last year. You saw from the Saints on Sunday. I'm thinking about using the middle of the field, which Philly was so good at last year. The Saints did a little bit of that in this game. That's everything that you would like to see in a Kellen Moore offense. I think you saw against a good Tampa defense on the road on Sunday. And look, this is not something where I think they've turned a corner. I'm not willing to say that about this team right now. But you got to see some signs and some flashes of things to have any hope that they're going to continue. And that's what I think you saw in this game. Tyler Shough very obviously has some traits that great quarterbacks have. He's got the size. He's got plenty of arm. You've now seen the ability to move and to get things going with his legs. And you saw some clutch some great decisions in crucial times against a good team. Like, it's hard for me to jump for joy when you beat the Giants behind 5 turnovers. It's a good Sunday for the Saints when you do that, but is that sustainable for the franchise? No, you're not going to get that every day. This was a sustainable win. You can play solid defense, get a turnover, run the ball, make some throws on third downs, use your quarterback's athleticism. Like, all these things are translatable moving forward. It wasn't a flukish turnover game. It wasn't a starting quarterback got hurt game. It wasn't a there was nothing fishy about this Saints win. It was just showing up and executing and playing well. And I've bashed Kellen Moore a little bit this year. I didn't like some of the decisions he made early in the season, especially with timeouts in that home game right out of the chute. I did not like the way the Saints came out of their bye week and just got flattened after having a week off at home against your rival. Like, there have been some things to pick on Kellen Moore about this year. This was solid stuff. This looked like a Kellen Moore football team, and hopefully you can see some of this moving forward. Now, so that's my analysis of this game. I want to go one step further very cautiously here. Very cautiously. The best result of this season, realistically, in August, was that the Saints played their best ball late in the season against a weaker schedule. Like, you can try to come out with some kind of pie in the sky where, oh, no, best case scenario, like they came out, played really well early, and they went 11-6. Like, really? With what everyone considered the worst roster in the NFL? Probably not. Like, there was really no pie in the sky expectation in reality for this team. Like, the reality was you weren't going to be very good. But your hope was that in December, when the schedule lightens, you play your best ball. And what you can now hope is that what you saw on Sunday translates to another week and translates to another week. And if you can see this happen, then all of a sudden you can start to have faith in that quarterback and you can start to have faith in that coach. And when you get faith in a quarterback and faith in a coach, that's the first two things that have to happen to get the franchise out of the gutter. I'm looking right now at Chicago. They've got the coach, and they're confident in their quarterback. Now, they lost on Sunday, but they're in a great position because their coach is really good and their quarterback's playing his best. And if the Saints can get – it's a different level because the Saints aren't going to win 10, 11, 12, 13 games like Chicago could. But if you can show that in December, awesome. Like, I'm not worried about the draft pick right now. I'm worried about Shough. And if you get more of that, steady third down play, quality decision-making, athleticism, and winning, then you can start to address other issues with this roster. And that's what you've got to do. So I'm not going to proclaim that Shough is the next franchise quarterback after one nice game. I'm not going to suggest they've turned a corner. I'm not all in on Kellen Moore now. Like, they've got to do some more. But you hope that this was the first step. The problem is, for the Saints, that you felt like this a couple of times this year, and then they've fallen flat. Like, you felt okay when you went on the road to Carolina and won, came off the bye week, okay, let's go get it done. Boom, Falcons get you by 2 touchdowns. And then you felt good after you beat the Giants. You got that win. You had played Buffalo close, so for 2 weeks you had played pretty good football. Then your offense looks like garbage against the Patriots, and you go up to Chicago and really get bullied. So, like, every time there's been a little bit of progress, you've fallen flat. Now you're playing Carolina in the Dome next week, and Carolina is better than we thought. Like, I have to say that now. I've been skeptical all year, but I don't really have a choice now. They're winning a lot of games, and they're beating some good teams. So you got to not face plant. And if you can go out there and play a decent game against Carolina, then you've got a chance against the Jets to really feel like you're generating some momentum, and the Titans are next. Like, it's right there. Carolina, Jets, Titans. Right there for you to take that step that we've all been hoping for since August. It's taken a while. It's been a slog. It's been messy. It's been unpleasant. But hopefully that was the first step in the right direction for New Orleans yesterday, as opposed to just one flash in the pan in the rain in Tampa. But they've got to show it. They haven't proven they can play 2 in a row well. They've got to show that coming up this coming week. But make no mistake, good day for the Saints on Sunday in Tampa. Jordan, you watched it. What'd you think?
I thought a couple things about Shough. Number one thing was, why in the world were we wasting Taysom Hill touches if Shough is this fast? If he can move like this, well, you're running.
The Taysom thing made no sense. There was just no sensible reason to be doing what you were doing with Taysom Hill.
Unreal. And another thing I liked a lot about Shough, I like that you really saw him be very in control of the offense. He's coming to the line, he's making checks, he's audibling. It felt like the moment was not too big in a spot where you're the underdog on the road at Tampa. Like it's a moon sign going on out there. It looked like a hurricane was going on out there. And you find a way to win. Another thing about Shough, I like how he got down with the touchdown run. He got down in the end zone. Yeah. I guarantee you Jackson Dart's not getting down right there. He probably would have tried to truck the guy. Shough immediately turtles up, got into the end zone. That's one thing I like about him. He's way smarter. I guess he's an older rookie coming in. He's way smarter than
How about you got Derek Carr hurtling through air?
Yeah,
ending his
exactly.
career.
Ending his career trying to hurdle over people, and Shough sees a defender and let me get down. That I love to see.
I have been waiting for the Shough just absurdly bad decision that we saw at Louisville.
Yeah.
If you turn on the Louisville highlights,
he's got a little funny lights.
You will see some what the heck was that?
Yes.
And he has not done that to this point. He's looked the part. Again, he's not throwing for 350 a game.
No, he's doing what needs to be done.
He did some things that executed the offense, and to put a bow on it, in my point, like it looked like Kellen Moore's offense yesterday. It looked like it was running the way, and it has to start with running the football. And Devin Neal ran the football. We've been talking about that for a month. You can't do squat if you can't run the ball.
Literally,
you can't Mike Leach Texas Tech this thing to the NFL. It just doesn't work. So, that's good stuff for New Orleans. 24-20 was the final in Tampa yesterday. All right, when we come back, I've got some thoughts on the college football playoff, including why everyone's missing the point. We'll do that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website, HighlandIG.com. If you're a business owner, got to have benefits for your employees, right? And sometimes that renewal comes and you go, huh? If that's happened to you recently, or you think it may be happening at your next renewal because rates are skyrocketing, call the Highland Insurance Group like a lot of folks are. I talked to Jonathan last week, said, look, they're getting a lot of phone calls because one specific benefits carrier is really hiking rates. And the Highland Insurance Group has other options. So if you're looking to make sure your employees are sticking around, or you're looking to recruit more employees, and you realize you've got to have your benefits in place and they're getting cost prohibited, the Highland Insurance Group can help you out with all your employee benefits. We talk about property and casualty most of the time on this show, but benefits is another thing that they do over at the Highland Insurance Group. So if you're looking for new benefits for your business, the Highland Insurance Group can help you out with that. They're here in Baton Rouge. They can help you out statewide. It's the Highland Insurance Group. They're online at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
We'll talk about LSU's grossly disappointing basketball effort last night on at the top of hour number 2. We'll do that coming up in 25 minutes. The college football playoff was set yesterday, and I have some thoughts. Everyone is going nuts about the Notre Dame thing. Everyone's talking about Alabama. Everyone's talking about Notre Dame. Everyone's talking about Miami. Everyone's talking about all that. And that's not what we should be talking about. It's not. The deal is that you have a schedule in front of you, and if you lose games, you are at the mercy of the committee. And Notre Dame came out and lost its first 2 games, and I don't have a lot of sympathy for them at all. In fact, none. But that's not the issue. That's not what has me up in arms. How in the world are we supposed to sit here and take this sport seriously when you have a 12-team playoff and you have 2 spots for Tulane and James freaking Madison? This is unserious. This is an unserious sport. It's unserious. No one could look at that and suggest we've got this thing figured out. Now, hopefully, what happens last year happens this year, because last year we looked at this and saw freaking Boise getting a bye. and Ohio State didn't. And we went, that's probably not right. We should probably fix that. And they did. Can we not look at this and say, hey, we should probably fix this? Why is this charity hour for everyone? Why do we have to let the ACC have a seat at the table? Their conference stinks. Why do we have to let the group of 5 have a seat at the table? They all stink. All of them. The 2 teams that got in the playoffs stink. Tulane had their chance. They got to look at on a stage against Ole Miss. They got the stage. This is a playoff team. How do you stack up? You got embarrassed. Embarrassed. And then they got blown out by UTSA. No, you don't get a playoff berth. You don't. Good story, good coach. Go play in a group of 5 playoff. Be awesome. You can play all those teams. You can play Coastal Carolina. You can play UTEP again. Maybe not get embarrassed. You can go play San Diego State, duel with Akron. It'll be awesome. Go play in that. James Madison played one P5 team themselves. They played Louisville. Louisville was a mediocre ACC team. We know how bad the ACC is. Duke won the league. They played Louisville. They lost 28-14 in a game. They had the football for like 40 minutes. And they got beat by 2 touchdowns. These teams are non-competitive with the teams that are competing for a national championship. It's ridiculous to have them included. And there are people that get on Twitter and get on ESPN and they go, well, why would you tell half the sport that they don't count? Because they don't. They can go play every Saturday. They can play their rivalry games. They can make their own playoff. To put them in a bracket with Georgia and Ohio State is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Notre Dame is good enough to be in the top 12. They didn't win enough games. You're out. And I do agree that you're setting a very dangerous precedent if you allow conference championship losses to impact teams. How do you think James Madison would have done against Georgia in the Georgia Dome on Saturday? You think that would have gone pretty well? No. Probably put a running clock in the fourth quarter. So I'm not going to penalize Bama for that. I'm not going to penalize teams for playing Georgia. They're in. It's fine. I don't like them. I want them to lose, but I'm fine with them in. The problem with the playoff is not that Notre Dame got screwed. The problem with the playoff is that we're reserving spaces in the bracket for charity. That's the problem. It's ridiculous. James Madison is a 20-point underdog in this game. James Madison's probably not any better than LSU. I have to be careful because LSU was on the ropes against Western Kentucky and Louisiana Tech, so I can't speak as demonstratively as I was like to. But I think if LSU played James Madison, LSU would beat them. And LSU was one of the worst teams in the SEC at the end of the year. I ranked them, I think, 11th in my power rankings. That's the problem with this bracket, is that you're reserving spots for charity, and it's ridiculous. Now, I do like something about the bracket. Now, this is the pettiness coming in, and it's not my best quality. I'm aware of that. I'll put that out there. And this is a jealousy thing in this instance, and it's not flattering for me to go this direction. But I have to, because my team stunk. My team fired its coach. My team was embarrassed by Texas A&M. My team is a non-factor. So all I've got left is these 12. And my only real rooting interest in this entire playoff is that Ole Miss and Texas A&M do not even get to the final. I can't even have them in the game. I need them, it's the furthest they can get for my enjoyment level is the semis. If they get to the title game, I'll be very disappointed. I think of myself in a very elite way when it comes to college football and college baseball. And I don't want anybody else getting in my club. I did not want Texas A&M in Atlanta for the SC Championship game. I did not want Ole Miss in Atlanta for the SC Championship game. In this instance, I pull against them harder than Alabama. I've lost that war. Bama's got 419 championships. What's another one? Who cares? I don't. I can't have Ole Miss and A&M feeling relevant, feeling like they've got an opportunity to win a national championship. That is unacceptable to me. And the bracket came out, and I was a little concerned, but I feel good about it. Why do I feel good about it? I know that Ole Miss gets a layup in the first game. They get to play Tulane, who deserves not to be in the game at all, and will get embarrassed again, I'm sure. But I got the Georgia buffer. If Ole Miss beats Tulane, which they will, they got to go beat Georgia in New Orleans. And that's going to be really difficult. I don't think they will. I know they had a 9-point lead in the fourth quarter in Athens. I know. I watched it. I don't think they'll beat them in New Orleans. So I think that Georgia's going to take care of Ole Miss. And right below that, Texas A&M, who does have a fight on their hands in the first game against Miami, has Ohio State staring right in the face in the Cotton Bowl right after that. Now, look, that is in Texas, but Ohio State travels, and Ohio State will bring some people to that game. It won't be a complete home game for A&M if they get there. And I feel like Ohio State's better than A&M. And I think that they'll get them out. But even if A&M does beat Ohio State, if A&M beats Miami and beats Ohio State, then they probably have to beat Georgia in the Fiesta Bowl. And if A&M has to beat Ohio State and Georgia to get to the final where I don't want them, I just don't think they're going to do that. I'm hopeful that A&M is a complete fraud, that they were propped up by their schedule, and that Texas revealed who they actually are. I'm hopeful in that. But I don't have any assurances of that. So I need either Miami or Ohio State or Georgia to take care of them. Now that is petty, it's weak, it's small, but it's all I got. I don't need A&M feeling like it's knocking on the door of a championship. I need A&M to fall flat on its face, either at home against Miami, which would be hilarious, or against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, and then go away. That's what I need. Have to do this all over again next year. I did not have a lot of confidence that A&M was going to get beat, and then Texas kind of took it to them, especially in the second half. And now I've got a buffer between, because there's a chance they could have ended up on some James Madison, Texas Tech, Indiana train, and I didn't want to take that chance. That I don't like. But now I got Georgia and Ohio State on that side of the bracket for A&M and for Ole Miss. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Hopefully I'm not wrong. Wouldn't be the first time, but hopefully I'm not wrong. So college football playoff, ridiculous James Madison and Tulane, but hopeful that I don't have to deal with Ole Miss and A&M getting in my club, which is the club that gets to play for national championships and win them. Don't need any more members in the club. Just shut the door. Bouncer, stand guard. Let's look at the college football playoff. We'll come back and close out hour number 1 coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, Baton Rouge-based roofing company, services the entire state of Louisiana, plus over in Houston and Texas. Look, you're talking about roof replacement, Lifetime Roofing can do it for you. You're talking about roof repair, Lifetime Roofing can help you with that. Looking for a tune-up, Lifetime Roofing can do that. Inspections as well. The peace of mind you can get from a roof inspection is phenomenal. Let's be real. Like, for most people, your home is your biggest investment, and your home protects the most important thing, which is your family. You don't want to take your roof for granted. Get an inspection from the folks at Lifetime Roofing and allow them, if they need to either do a repair or put a new roof on. You can go to their website, lifetimeroofingla.com. You can check out photographs of their great work, learn more about them, and you can request that inspection right there on the homepage. It's Lifetime Roofing. They're veteran-owned, phenomenal roofing company here in Baton Rouge. You know, in this part of the world, you got to take your roofs very, very seriously. They do it at Lifetime Roofing. Check them out online at lifetimeroofingla.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
So, closing out the hour here, I have a working theory. It's not concrete yet. I'm not 100% positive. But it's a theory that I have that is starting to hold a little bit of water. Jordan, I'll get your thoughts on this. There is no question that this Alabama team is soft.
Yeah, they can't run the ball.
This Alabama team is soft. They cannot run the ball. They don't stop the run very well. If you saw the Iron Bowl, you saw a bunch of 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s where they're running creative stuff and misdirection, jet sweeps and reverses and play action stuff. Like, can't just hand it off and go get it. And that's concerning for this team because they're going to the playoff. They're playing a physical team in Oklahoma that's already beaten them in Tuscaloosa. And it's concerning. And I don't think Alabama's going to win a national championship this year because I believe them to be soft. That's not the theory. Because that is proven. They went out there and ran for negative yards against Georgia. Soft. The question is, and the theory that I'm working towards is Kalen DeBoer's program soft? Now, that is a different kettle of fish. And we'll have to see next year what they look like. But I don't know a lot about his time at Washington or Fresno State. I don't know how physical those teams were playing and what level of, players they're playing against. But at the level that Alabama wants to play at, there's no negotiating. You have to be physical. And we've all been saying, well, I shouldn't say we've all been saying. I've been saying for a decade, whoever took over for Nick Saban was in trouble in Tuscaloosa because you just aren't going to be able to live up to that standard. It's just not realistic. But you will be expected to live up to that standard. And when those two things don't match, you get fired. And it's extremely likely, in my estimation, that Kalen DeBoer is going to lose a playoff game and lose 8 games in his first 2 seasons. Like, that's extremely likely to me. Now, this was a 10-2 team that made the playoff. And you can phrase it that way, but I don't think Alabama fans are going to do that. I think Alabama fans don't care about the fact that you made the playoffs. Did you win the championship? Did you look like a threat to be a national champion? And unless something drastically changes over the course of the next month, Alabama will not have looked like a championship team since they left the field against Georgia the first time. Like, that's my opinion. And that's just not going to fly in Tuscaloosa. 8 losses in 2 years is not going to fly, even with the playoff berth in a 10-2 season. So the question I have is, can Kalen DeBoer instill some physicality into his team for next season? Because make no mistake, if Alabama does not look like a championship team next year, the natives will be restless. They're probably already restless. And the fact that this year is probably going to end with a loss is going to make them more restless. And next year could be toxic in Tuscaloosa. And it wouldn't really be almost anywhere else. Just missed the playoff last year. You were right there on the edge. And then you come back the next year and you make the playoff. Like, that's good most places. This isn't most places. This is the most unrealistic fan base maybe in all of American sports. And what you saw on Saturday was not just, we didn't beat Georgia. What you saw on Saturday was a team that could not stand up to the fight. And one thing about Alabama fans is they do know what championship football looks like. They may be delusional in some factions, but they know what it's supposed to look like. And what you saw on Saturday was not competitive. They were just not competitive. That game was over in the first quarter. Georgia was just hammering them at the line of scrimmage. And so you can fix things like that year to year. I mean, Brian Kelly got fired, but he went from having an atrocious defense to a good one. Like, you can fix things like this. It's just a matter of whether or not Kalen DeBoer can do it. Like, Kevin Sumlin could not instill physicality into his Texas A&M teams. Just couldn't do it. And he got him fired. And this is a whole different ballgame than that. And this team did just go 10-2, and this team did just have they had the most impressive win in college football this year. Going on the road and beating Georgia at Athens is the best win in the nation. So it's not like he can't coach at all. But to win championships, which is the standard Alabama, you have to be physical. And, like, they're not. They're just not. So it's something that I'm going to be paying attention to. And I feel like we're going to watch this playoff play out. We'll see how it goes. But when we get to SEC Media Days next July, and we go to Tampa, and we're chatting, like, the talking point for me around Alabama, year 3 under Kalen DeBoer, like, you going to hit somebody in the mouth? Or are you going to be finesse? Because if you're going to be finesse, you might win some games, but you're not going to live up to the standard that you have to live up to in Tuscaloosa. Fair or unfair, just is what it is. But that was an eye-opening game to me it didn't matter in the grand scheme. Bama still got into the playoff. Like, they didn't hold it against them. Like, the game's result was insignificant. But the way that you got there, to me, is significant when you put it together with the way that Alabama's played this year. And they simply don't have the physicality to be a championship team. And that's going to be a very, very interesting thing to watch. You got a thought on that, Jordan? Think it's a team or a program issue?
I think it has to be more of a program issue. Can't be a team necessarily because Bama's still bringing in 4 and 5 stars at the running back.
Caden Proctor, number one.
Yeah, so I can't say it's a talent thing. It's more about, I mean, you got to look at the head coach, man. But it's so confusing to me when you say this because it's like this is supposed to be the the downside or down years of Bama, but LSU still can't get over the hump of beating these guys.
Yeah,
that's why I'm just so lost with Bama. It's like they get up to play LSU, but I guess you could say Georgia is the first time Georgia has beat them in a while. So, but everybody else it's a toss up. They see Oklahoma and they just start shaking in their boots. I can't explain it at all.
I'm curious to see how that playoff game shakes out. I think I'm going to pick Alabama to win that game because I think Oklahoma's offense is terrible. But Alabama, Oklahoma's going to be physical with them.
They're going to bring it.
We'll see how many points Alabama can score. It kind of depends. We'll see. I got till the 19th, so I got 11 days to figure out who I'm picking in that game. I'm not going to rush to anything there, but my initial thought was to pick Bama. We'll see. All right, that's it for hour number 1 here. If you missed any of the show, opened talking about Blake Baker staying at LSU. You can catch that at Hunt on LSU. Then we talked about the Saints getting a big win. Talked about Tyler Shough's performance. You can find that at Hunt on Saints. On some college football playoff talk over the last 30 minutes. Get back to some LSU football a little bit later. Denton Day with us in 35 minutes talking national college football headlines. But when we come back after SportsCenter, I do want to talk about LSU's basketball team yesterday. Was that just a bad 2 hours, or was that indicative of what this team is? I've got a thought on it. I'll give that to you when we pause for SportsCenter. It's a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.